Well, hi there. Welcome back to the Rebuilt Parish podcast. We're so grateful that you're here with us today. In the studio, we've got Ed Bradley, our resident expert on all things Rebuilt strategic anchors. Ed not only serves at Nativity, but he also serves as a staff member, coach, and trainer at Rebuilt Parish. Today, you're going to hear Ed dive deep into the Grow Deeper strategic anchor as he walks you through spinning that flywheel on all things growing deeper. He talks about the steps of discipleship and how to have them in your own parish. I can't wait for you to learn from Ed today. Well, hi there, Ed. Thank you so much for joining us again today as we explore that Grow Deeper anchor.
Great to be with you, Melissa. These are always a good time for me. I enjoy doing it, and so happy to be with you.
Well, everyone always learns so much from you, especially because you're a resident expert on these strategic anchors. So I'm going to just dive in and say, can you give us that overview of the Grow Deeper strategic anchor and why is it so important for parish renewal?
Okay. All right. We're jumping right in, and that's awesome. All right. Well, so just remember the four anchors, right? We want to be parishes that have a burden for who isn't coming. And so we want to have sort of a heart to grow wider, and that requires us to be welcoming of outsiders and to really have that heart for evangelization. When they arrive, they have to have a great weekend experience. It's driven by music, the homily, the ministers creating that vibe on the weekend. It's an awesome experience that people want to come back to. And in that experience, they're also growing deeper in their faith. So they're growing deeper in their faith, not only in that anchor, not only at Mass, but then we encourage them or challenge them to grow deeper in their faith. And to that end, we shape a clear discipleship path for them. We call upon certain practices that will enable people to go deeper in their faith. That's the one we're going to talk about today. And then the final anchor is that everything comes together in leadership, and it's layers of leadership. It's a leadership community. It starts at the top with the pastor and his inner team, but it's empowering staff to then and authorizing them to become leaders of teams themselves and to create layers under themselves. So those are the four anchors we're talking about. I think the Grow Deeper anchor, this idea of, we're in the discipleship business and we want to encourage our parishioners to go deeper in their faith, is a really, really powerful one. I think it might be the most important from a cultural perspective, and we're going to talk about that. Listen, the Mass is the source of some of our faith. So the weekend experience at the end of the day is going to be the most important anchor, right? We're as parishes, we need to have a great Mass. And so that probably is number one. At the same time, grow deeper is really important from a discipleship perspective. And so, and in each of the anchors, we have grow wider, welcome outsiders, great weekend experience, music, message, ministry, leadership, create a leadership community. For this one, grow deeper, I think the tagline might be of the four, the one where the tagline is as important as the main anchor name, meaning shaping a clear discipleship path. And we're going to talk about that. But what are the practices that we as parish leaders can encourage parishioners to do that's going to help them grow deeper in their faith? Because we're in the discipleship business, we're all at a different place. We all want to grow deeper in our faith. What specifically as leaders can we encourage people to do? So that's why it's an anchor, and that's why it's really important. Because we'll talk about why some more here in a minute. But the anchor is encourage people with the specific practices, which we'll talk about, and then importantly, have systems in place that help them do it.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Ed. Now let's walk through what are the different elements in that flywheel for Grow Deeper.
Yeah, I'm gonna head fake you first. Right?
Oh, all right.
Because you'll remember with some of the others that we've stepped back And I kind of was really at 35,000 feet. But now I want to talk about the why for this anchor a little bit more specifically, because for each of these anchors, as parish leaders, we want to have language around the why. We want to be able to communicate the why. We want, bulletin letters and website pages and those kinds of things to reflect the why behind this so that people get behind it. So why is it important to shape a clear discipleship path? I mentioned we're in the discipleship business. We all want everything we do in the parish is about discipleship. So, for ourselves, for our parishioners, we want to be growing deeper as disciples. So, and we're going to see this when we get to the flywheel, that top anchor. The top flywheel item is that macro anchor. But in any event, it's all about discipleship, right? But then in addition, the idea of giving clarity to what are the things people can be doing, it really reflects good leadership. And what do I mean by that? As parish leaders, our parishioners are looking for us for leadership, and we need to meet that moment. Okay. And we're in the discipleship business, so we should have clarity around what we're encouraging people to do. If we don't provide that leadership, if we don't provide that clarity, chaos ensues, right? So we want to be that Yoda to our parishioners and provide that leadership so that chaos doesn't ensue, and so that they, in fact, are inclined to act. And if we can encourage them with specific actions to take, they'll take them. People covet leadership. The other thing is that if we provide that clarity, it breeds confidence in our leadership, which is important to do. If people apply to us or convey to us sort of the appreciation and acknowledge our leadership in their growth, they're going to be more inclined to follow us when we ask them to get involved in ministry. They're going to be more inclined when we ask for them to give. They're going to. So the why behind this is to sort of breed that confidence as well, and to be that Yoda for people. And then further, it's going to create unity in the parish. And this is where the cultural thing comes in. If you get everybody, first of all, rowing in the same direction with the same ideas, a couple of things happen. First of all, you can get momentum behind certain programs, and you don't create competing systems. You're very clear about what the things are in the parish that you do. And so that's an important thing, because you're going to have limited resources. You can only, really finance certain ministries. So let's focus on those. But the other thing is, if you can get a lot of people behind certain ministry work or certain mission work, you're creating that power of scale, and you can really create a movement in the parish. So it's important for a lot of reasons, right? It's important just because we're all on discipleship paths, and you're going to be able to get everybody moving to grow as a disciple, but you can also create corporate movement and really create powerful scale and impact in the community. Because of it. So those are all the whys around it. So I head faked you there a little bit, Melissa, but now we can get into the flywheel.
That sounds good. So you want to start at the top?
Yeah, sure. There are really, when you talk about, and you talk about show notes, that's all above my pay grade, but you'll have these slides and stuff in here so people could look at the flywheel, right?
We'll have, I wasn't planning on showing the actual picture of the flywheel, but we can do that.
I don't mean now. I just meant that people can put that.
We could put that in the show notes for everyone to see. We also have the evaluation in the show notes for people to see too. We'll talk about that towards the end. Okay.
So each of these anchors that we've been talking about has this sort of picture of it as a flywheel. And the idea of flywheel, these are actions. This is how we execute on on this anchor. There you go. Perfect. And so you see spinning, circle, because it's movement. These are all things that we try something, we evaluate, we move forward. And it's the work of the parish is an eternal game, and we're always improving, always improving. So with regard to grow deeper, we're trying to encourage parishioners to go deeper in their faith by providing the practices, ministries, and underlying systems that'll help them do that. And so the top of this flywheel is sort of the macro how is identify the actions and systems that grow discipleship. So a lot of the things that we're going to talk about around this flywheel are things you're probably already doing, but maybe you haven't named it. And this isn't kind of rocket science. When we talk about, we're going to talk about asking people to serve, because Jesus came to serve, not to be served. And if we're going to be a disciple of Jesus, we should similarly serve, right? So we'll talk about that in a second, but that might be an action, an activity that we call upon people to do. What are the activities, the actions, and importantly, the underlying systems? We advocate, and we'll talk about, and this flywheel will reflect what we call the steps of discipleship. STEPS. Serve, tithe, engage in small groups, practice prayer in the sacraments, and share our faith with others. We're going to talk about those 5, and those are the next 5 flywheel items. But for you, maybe you're doing a lot of these things. Maybe you have another. And the reason we put it in an acronym is for the memorization of it, or for the understanding of it, and for the cultural development of it. And so, you can have signs in your narthex about, the path of discipleship or the practices. Some people I talk to prefer the word practices to path. All good. And I work with a parish that has the habits, HABITS, and it's like a holy hour, and it's Bible study, and it's investing in the parish, and it's serving. And so they have their acronym. But anyway, so you need to identify your practices, and importantly, and we'll talk about this for each one, systems that help them do it. So, and the best the way to think about it is what makes this practice accessible to people. Okay. And you should think about like rungs on the ladder. What's an easy first step for people to do to get started in this practice? So that's our job as parish leaders, not just to identify the practices, but to have systems in place that undergird them and make them easy for people to do. So that's.
And I have a question about that. So how can parishes begin to identify and implement some of those actions and systems?
Yeah, and that starts with that. It does start with taking an inventory of things you're already doing.
Yes.
We are in the parish business. We're in the ministry business. There are going to be a lot of things you're already doing. So it might be just a matter of naming them, identifying them, naming them, providing clarity to them, and maybe bringing them together into a discipleship path with some clever way of speaking about them. Okay. And maybe there's 1 or 2 you need to improve, and maybe it's 1 or 2 you maybe should stop doing, and when you do that inventory, maybe there's some gaps that our conversation here today might inform, hey, that's that is a gap for us, and we need to think about that. So, I guess, the first step to defining your steps is to kind of take a look in the mirror and see what things you're already doing.
So good. All right. What do we have next in the flywheel?
Yeah. The next one is, and again, remember, STEPS. So we're just going to move right around those letters. And so invite parishioners to serve in ministry or missions. And we say in ministry and missions. Thinking about ministry as serving inside the parish, think about missions as serving outside the parish. But the most important thing as you think about this is to serve, right? And to bring your gifts that God has given you to bear in your own discipleship growth and in the growth of others. And I'm going to elaborate that in a minute. But just remember, kind of Mark 10:45, the Son of Man came to serve, right? So we are disciples. We are students of Jesus. We want to emulate Jesus. Jesus came to serve. We need to serve. All right. Now here's something I want to say. It's really powerful, I think, here, and particularly in the giving. We do not invite parishioners to serve because the church needs servers, or we need, you aren't doing this, you aren't doing that, and we need more. No. We invite people to grow in their faith.
Yes.
Grow as a disciple. And when you serve, you will grow in your faith. When you serve others, you will grow in your faith. And that's what we want for you. And so we're providing opportunities for you to grow in your faith by providing opportunities to serve in the parish, in ministry, or maybe with some of our mission partners that we've identified in the city or globally, right? So serve because you grow when you serve. So that's a cultural shift. When you make the ask to serve, it's not a ministry fair because we need more of. It's a opportunity to grow in your faith as a disciple. So just sort of keep that in mind. And if you can flip that switch culturally, you'll have all the service you need. Okay?
Yes.
You can do it well. And if you can make that invitation well, you can do it well. So now how do you make it accessible? And that is, provide opportunities to serve, be clear about what those opportunities are, and make that first serve opportunity easy. Maybe, somebody signs up to serve, so you assign them a shepherd. You assign them a server buddy for their, helps them get, sometimes you have, not sometimes, you have to go through probably a diocesan sign-up process. There are serving in the parish requires some of those things that practical realities we have to deal with, but have them have a buddy that shepherds them through that process. And then, hey, your first serve experience, I'll be there with you. I'm going to take you through it, show you the ropes. It'll be easy, introduce you to everybody, blah, blah, So have a system in place that makes it easy. And then to grow in this, you might have a system of leadership or sort of next tier level of serving and that kind of thing. Anyway, so
I love what you said about that, Ed, though, because when you think about, a couple of things. So first, when you talked about how when we tell them about serving, it's not from a place of lack in the parish, it's because this is going to do something for them. And when we share what's in it for them, people are more likely to take us up on our offer. And then that second part that I love that you said was that we give them a buddy or a mentor to help them when they first serve, because sometimes it can be a little scary, even as adults. It's like when you go to sit down and pick a lunch table in middle school, right? Same thing with serving. It's when you've got a friend to serve with or someone who's like, hey, Ed, I'm going to be here to help you as you serve. We're going to do this together. It takes that loneliness and scary out of it. And I think that's such an incredible strategy.
Awesome. And that's exactly right. And so like your systems in your parish might look a little different, but just be thoughtful about how you make it accessible for folks. And that's absolutely an idea to help them do that. Yeah. The next one, we could have a whole podcast on this next one.
I think we will.
Maybe because full disclosure to the audience, I'm the stewardship director at Nativity, and this is a big part of my own personal faith walk, and I'm very passionate about our attitudes about money and how it informs our faith. But anyway, but this one is the T is tithe or give. So people, when they give to the parish, they grow as a disciple. But you need to, and this is the flywheel item is called connect giving to discipleship. And the sort of crescendo phrase I like to use is in a parish, we are not in the business of raising money.
Right.
And you might think, what? We're not in the business of raising money. We're in the business of raising givers.
Yes.
And if you do that well, culturally, the money will follow, right? And that sounds, disingenuous, like I'm just trying to be, use semantics to actually grow money. But no, 16 of 39 parables are about money and possessions that Jesus talked about. He knew that he was in competition with stuff, with our materialism for our hearts, right? He knew that that's a challenge for us.
Yeah.
And so we have to get that right as disciples. And the way you get right as disciple is to become a cheerful giver, is to understand that I'm blessed to be a blessing to others, and to understand that it's not even mine anyway. Psalm 24, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And so our job is to sort of give first fruits back to God. And I'm starting to sort of get into my thing here, and I'll try to take it down a notch. But to understand that that giving is part of our discipleship. And in Nativity, there we talk about what we call the 4 P's of giving. There might be 5 P's of giving, but and I'll mention that. But the end of the day, we need to make the connection. So it's all God's. So what I should do as part of my family budget, as part of my plan, is I should make giving a part of it. Okay. And it should not only be a part of the plan, it should be a priority in the plan. Proverbs 3:9, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all you produce. So first fruits, so it should be a priority in your budget. Then if you can, third P is percentage. We need to teach our parishioners to be percentage givers. And to start somewhere. This is the accessibility. Mm-hmm. We're not asking you to be a tither or a 10% giver tomorrow. Teach yourself to be a percentage giver. Start at 1%, start at 2%, start at 0.5%. But then the 4th P is progress or grow your giving over time. If you become a 1% of your income giver, you're going to learn, I can do that.
Yeah.
And you're going to then learn, well, let's try 2 this year. And then, I can do that. And God's going to start to bless you when you start to think that way. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, I'm getting my head right around money. I'm becoming a giver. And all of a sudden I'm at 3%, I'm at 4%. It does, the point is growing. The point is becoming a cheerful giver, being a blessing to others, and viewing your giving that way. Okay, so if you can flip that switch. So again, that's the language, how you talk about it in the church. And the 5th P could be and encourage people to pray about their giving.
Yes.
But that's not sort of one of our official 4, but maybe it should be the 5th. Anyway, so use that kind of language and teach people to be a giver and become a parish that is raising givers, not a parish that's raising money. That's connecting giving to discipleship. Okay, should I keep rolling to? Go ahead.
I do, but I want to just share something and ask a question because I think people can learn so much here. So first thing that some of you should know is that for our coaching parishes, Ed also teaches a finance course, and it's incredible. I've taken it as a partner parish, but Ed, I would love to know, do you have any stories from a parish that you might have helped with this, and what were their results? How has that helped to change their discipleship?
Yeah, in the course particularly, there are a lot of practical applications of what I'm talking about. And there are things like having good back office systems that may help you understand when a new giver shows up, and how do you thank that giver, and how do you steward that giver. Maybe when they make a 5th gift, to encourage them to become an electronic giver, because that then reflects a priority in their giving. You use that language with people. So you do the other thing. So that's the importance of information and thank you notes and certain practices, and getting to know your bigger givers and cultivating relationships with them, those kinds of things. The other thing we lead to in that course, but it's also important as a parish, is to have like a stewardship Sunday, and to kind of do that late in the year, and to build to that over multiple weeks, and how to execute a good, strong stewardship Sunday. And there are a number of parish stories where they saw, sort of 15, 20% growth in offertory year over year because of the execution of a good stewardship Sunday. and it does in fact pay off. As much as that may sound mercenary, we don't mean it to be, but we also want to be very effective in how we raise money because we believe in the work we're doing. We believe in the ministry work we're doing and the discipleship work we're doing, and God will bless it if we do it well. So Stewardship Sunday success stories, 15%, 18% offertory growth year over year. That's not an uncommon result.
Those are huge numbers, absolutely huge numbers. And I want to celebrate that because that's something that, we talk about sharing. Part of giving in discipleship is time, talent, and treasure. And so Ed offers up his talent when he's teaching these courses and coaching these parishes. And for them to have these results, then it was a result of this 15% plus giving. They're able to turn that around and invest in their parish and invest in the next generation and invest on growing wider and a greater weekend experience. It is just all cyclical. And I just want to call that out, how when you can make that connection, the amazing things that can happen in your parish.
Awesome. Great stuff. All right.
All right. Now let's move on.
The next one is be a parish of small groups. And the key word there is of.
Yes.
Well, you start with small groups. If you don't have them yet, there is a lot of power in small groups. And I guess you talk about like Paul in Romans 1. Paul longs for them when he's talking to writing his letter back to the Romans, to be mutually encouraged by one another in their faith. And I think that's the power of small group, kind of friends in faith, sort of positive peer pressure, accountability. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in the sort of like your faith grows in a circle. Your faith grows when you're surrounded by fellow believers. It is the place for the delivery of pastoral care in a parish. So many benefits to small groups. It's like where big church gets small. When something's happening in your life and you're in a small group and you need folks to come around you in your parish community, you're not always going to be able to sort of get the attention of staff or your pastor. If you have a big church, it's just impossible sometimes.
Right.
Your small group, though, they're going to just come around you in spades, man, and just bless you. And so the power of small, but also the opportunity to sort of meet regularly with your small group and to go deeper in the message or whatever is being talked about in church. Just powerful stuff. And again, when you talk about the cultural elements of it, everybody rowing in the same direction, particularly if you have all of your small groups doing the same content. And this is the important part with regard to the systems that are in place and the accessibility of small groups. At Nativity, we're blessed to have, maybe almost 200 and maybe 1,800 people, and 200 small groups and 1,800 people participating, almost 2,000 people, which is crazy cool. But that happens. You need a lot of leaders of small groups for that. And you might think, boy, that's a lot to ask people. So thinking as parish leaders, how can we make that ask to be a small group leader less of a burden on people? And so what can we do to make that easier for them is to provide, the biggest thing is to provide the content for the meeting to them so that they don't have to do a deep dive Bible study for like 3 hours to prepare for a small group meeting because they want to know the scripture you're going to, or the book or whatever, which is all good. Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad thing to do small groups that way, but you're going to it's an easier yes to be a small group leader lets you exponentially grow your small group ministry if you provide the content. So all somebody has to do is put out some drinks and some cookies and have some fellowship time, and then push a play button to watch a video, and then have questions for discussions already created to guide the conversation. That's sort of a textbook way to have systems in place that undergird the small group idea that allows you to exponentially grow them and get everybody participating in a small group. And so the one way to make it easier is to, first of all, let's understand the merits of small groups from the standpoint of growth in your faith and having community around you. Powerful, powerful stuff, doing life together with your small group. Making it easy by providing content to the leaders. But the other thing is like to invite people into small groups, small, low rungs on the ladder, perhaps, just for Lent. You might say, all right, we're going to have a 6-week small group for this Lenten series that we're doing. You can join just for 6 weeks. You can do that through Lent. And you'll be blown away by how many people have that experience and like, I'm in. I'm doing it. I'm staying with it. So make it accessible by just for Lent or some other easy ask, and by making content available. So small groups are a big way to sort of get everybody in the parish rowing in the same direction.
They are. And I think, Ed, we could probably do an entire series on small groups and the benefits. But one benefit you mentioned that I want to underscore for our parish leaders that are listening today is that what you said around it makes our big parish small. And it's where the pastors, we know that we've got parishes out there who there's one pastor for 5 different locations, and he is spread so thin. And he physically can't offer pastoral care to every single one of his parishioners. But in their small group, that's where they can receive that pastoral care. And Ed, I know that you've got a strong small group. I've been in very strong small groups also. And I can tell you, I've been on the receiving end of the pastoral care, and I'm sure you have too. And I've been on the end of the giving of the pastoral care. And there is no way our pastors out there could be the one to serve this way for every single parishioner. And I think that's one of the big things that we want them to know is that this makes their jobs so much more manageable. They're already doing so much.
And if you can get to a place, listen, when you start a small group program, you're just trying to get them started, right? But if you can get to a place where you can offer couples, men's, women's, young adults, new moms, different, you can find that pastoral care also around. So my wife and I have a couples small group on Wednesday nights, but then I also have a men's small group on Friday morning. So, because I kind of covered both, right? Yeah. And so doing something with my wife, but then also having, some guys to sort of lean into. So, anyway, so that's just, again, I'm amplifying exactly what you said, Melissa. Perfectly said. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. All right. What's next on the flywheel?
So the P, I forgot to say engage in small groups. That's the E in steps. Engage in small groups. The P is prayer, or is really practice your faith through prayer and the sacraments. So you want to encourage a daily prayer and a sacramental life. And that seems like sort of one-on-one. We get the sacraments, I think, in the parishes pretty good, pretty right.
Yeah.
It's kind of down the middle for us. But we can also be encouraging people in their prayer life. And there are different ways to do that. But the importance of a daily prayer life as we're growing as disciples. Remember, we're in the discipleship business. So let's encourage people to be praying and connecting to the vine on a daily basis, right? But how do we help them do that? At Nativity, we have our message series, and then we have a daily devotional that kind of accompanies our weekend message. Doesn't mean that's what you have to do. I mean, you could use Nativities. You could sign up for our daily practice by just going to the Nativity website. But there are a lot of great devotionals out there in terms of, Notre Dame and Ignatian and Matthew Kelly. I mean, there are lots of them. And just to name a few, pick one you like and put links to it in your weekly flock note email or something. It's not a hard thing to do. But what you're doing is you're providing that leadership. You're encouraging people into their daily prayer life. And then, of course, you want to have your sacraments, done really, really well. So the P is prayer and the sacraments, and make it easy for folks to to take that practice.
So good. And Ed, where can you see the message series connecting in here?
Well, this is where the rebuilt content kind of comes in. Not to be a commercial, but I'll be a commercial. We've been doing message series a long time, and so you don't have to reinvent the wheel by trying to figure out what message series we're going to do. There is an annual way to sort of look at our stuff on the Rebuild Parish site, and so there are message series, but in addition to the homilies and the videos and transcripts and artwork and all that stuff, there are daily devotionals that, Michael White does most of the homilies, right? But Tom Corcoran does the day-to-day daily practice. They're really quite good. And they're 2 minute, 3 minute, gets you into the scripture, gets you thinking about something. It might lead you further into your quiet time and into your scripture study. So you can sign up for that at rebuildparish.com. But that's also a way to go deeper in that week's sort of thought or topic, right? On a daily basis, take you deeper into the primary message for the week.
Well, thank you. Ed, I think this last one is one that parishes, they're here for. If they're looking to grow and evangelize, that's why they're here. But I think it's also the one that can sometimes be the scariest for individuals. So can you walk us through this one?
Yes. And we will see links to other flywheels here, particularly when we talk about growing wider. And when we did talk about that, Melissa, we talked about an idea of invest and invite.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, that'll be sort of a crescendo part of this flywheel item for sharing your faith. But the S in the second S, first S is serve, the second S is share your faith. And that can be scary for folks, okay, clearly. But, when Jesus called his apostles, he didn't say, we're going to, call to sort of come hide at somewhere and just be, closet believer. Come and I will make you fishers of men. And so we are called to be fishermen, fisherwomen, fisherers. And so, we want to have that attitude. And so how do we do that? How do we share our faith? We do talk about this idea of investing and inviting. And the idea is to try to help people along the sort of continuum of sharing your faith. Start with just who's in your life, and are you modeling your faith, and are you, and so are you investing in people? And that doesn't mean proselytizing them. That just means, are you building relationships? Are you modeling your faith? Maybe you're dropping, I go to this church, or, I'll pray for you, or, oh man, I am so blessed. I mean, there might be ways to sort of convey this idea of discipleship, right? And you'll get more and more comfortable with the given person over time, and you're going to grow in that relationship and deepen in that. So you're investing in that person. You're building that relationship. And then a time will come that the timing will feel right, that you might invite them to church. So not the first time you're meeting somebody. So, how's your faith walk? Although I have friends who are like that, they're so comfortable, right? But anyway, that said, invest in people, and then when the time is right, invite them to church. Okay, so what are things that we can do as parish leaders to make it easier for them? Well, we can, be taking some time along the way to be encouraging people to be thinking about their story so that they are learning how to be comfortable talking about how Jesus has impacted their life, perhaps. But so to help them invest along the way. But when that time comes to make the invitation, what can we be doing to help them do that? So maybe that we have a little place on the website that is and invite somebody to your church page on the website where all they have to do is put in a name and an email address, and an email is crafted for them that they can edit if, to make it their own. But anyway, that might be a way to make an easy invitation. Or we have a new series coming up. I talked about this with Grow Wider. We have a new series coming up. Maybe we print postcards that has the title of the series and when mass times are and what the summary of the series will be about, so that they can hand that postcard to their friend. Hey, Nativity's starting a new, message series on the Holy Spirit. You should come to this. You learn about the Holy Spirit, or forgiveness or whatever it might be, right? So invest and invite and have systems in place that help people to take that step.
Amazing. Well, Ed, I know you've shared just some of our tools that we've got available, and I am going to link the Flywheels in the show notes. Also, that Grow Deeper evaluation will be in the show notes, and that's got an evaluation to walk them through how their parish is doing, along with some low-hanging fruit ideas, because I know that you love to talk about those. And that's available at rebuiltparish.com/deeper evaluation. Again, that link will also be in the show notes. Any other Rebuilt tools or resources that you would recommend to help them on their journey to growing their parish deeper?
And I think I already did the commercial, but Rebuilt Parish does have. We have the workshops on Wednesday, and they'll start back up in the fall. People can, and topically, there are always links to sort of discipleship and things you're doing in the parish to, whether it's the kids programs or small groups or, all the things we talked about. So there's the weekly webinars on Wednesdays at noon. They'll start up again in the fall. There's the online subscription for the content, the message series, and the small group materials and children's liturgy of the word materials. There's lots and ministry manuals and that sort of thing. So that thing. And of course, we stand ready to come alongside parishes with coaching, and we'd love to, get to know your parish better. We come out to parishes and visit them and observe the weekend, and that can lead into sort of a coaching relationship too sometimes. So we look to come alongside parishes and meet them where they are, whether it's just encouraging you to attend our workshops, whether it's there's somebody on staff that we could be coaching, whether there's a whole team we could be coaching, whether it's access to materials. So lots of ways we love to engage with parishes, and we'd love to engage with yours.
Well, Ed, thank you so much. Thank you for how you share your gifts and serve the parish and so many other parishes around the world by sharing your gifts with Rebuilt. So we are so grateful for you that you're here with us today.
Oh, goodness, you're too kind. But thank you, Melissa. Great work. Great job. Love to just be a part of all this great stuff you're doing.
Well, thank you. Thank you to our listeners. We are grateful that you tuned in. Take a peek at the show notes. We have all sorts of resources there for you. We'll see you soon.